You see, whenever we come with that phrase, with that question, we want to see Jesus. Part of what we're saying, I think, is this. We want to know what God is up to. That's part of what we want to know all the time in our life. What is God up to? What is God doing in my life? What does God want me to do? Who does God want me to be? How does God want me to act? How does God expect me to love my enemy and pray for those who hurt me? What is God up to in this world? What is God up to in my life? Maybe that's what these Gentiles, these Greeks were asking. What is God up to? We want to see Jesus. I think there's a part of us that wants to see Jesus as well. Here's the challenge. Sometimes when we say we want to see Jesus, what we mean by that is we want to see Jesus in the way that we perceive Jesus. We have these nice little images, these ideas of what Jesus should be and how Jesus should respond. And so we're like the little girl who has this picture of Jesus as a very old, nice man who lives way up in heaven. Yet sometimes we don't get beyond that as adults, and we still think that way. Sometimes God and Jesus, they're just a great helper, there for us in our time of need, but at any other time we really don't want to be bothered by the way they tell us to live our life. And so we kind of fix this nice little box and we put God and Jesus in there. And that's where we want them to stay. But if we're really going to ask the question, we want to see Jesus, if we're going to say, what is God up to? Then part of what we have to do is open ourselves. I think as you read the Gospels, you'll discover some very interesting things. You'll discover some clues about what the Gospel writer wants you to hear. And you hear that especially in this passage. Because there's a part of you that would want to say, why doesn't Jesus answer the request? Why doesn't John record Jesus going to these Greeks with Philip and Andrew and saying, it's good to meet you. Thank you for wanting to know more about me. What questions do you have? How can I help you? But that's not what happens here. And I think what John does is reveal to us something about what has to happen in our own lives when we want to see Jesus, when we want to know what God is up to. Because as you look at this, there's almost silence in the response of Jesus. Sure, Jesus is speaking, but it's almost as if the request has gone silent. But that's not the case. Because what Jesus does and what John does in this gospel is use this conversation with Jesus to reveal who Jesus really is. You want to see Jesus? This is who he is. He's the suffering servant. He's the one Son of God to die upon the cross for the forgiveness of our sins. You want to know who Jesus is? He's the one who said, go and love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. You want to know who Jesus is? He's the one who said, love your neighbor as yourself. You still want to know who Jesus is? He said, go and sell all that you have and give it to the poor.